Hey everyone, Zach here, and welcome to the 42nd lesson of this RTS tutorial series. In this video, we will upgrade our vehicles to resolve the issue where our units were either dying or not being properly teleported from or back into the map. That said, fire up your editor and let's get started.
Alright, so here we are back inside of our editor, and I've still yet to think of a good start line for this. So the first thing we need to do is we need to clean up a mistake that I made in the last video. I said we were going to delete something, and I made a mistake. We aren't going to delete that. So we actually need to clean it up so we can do some stuff with that. In your blueprints folder, go to Player, open up your PlayerController, and I said we were going to delete this thing up here. Well, I mistook this for this get in vehicle. I don't know why I did that. This is clearly not the get in vehicle. This is to delete units from the selected list when they are moved into a building. So we are going to clean this up a fair amount, and we are going to clean it up because I'm going to show you the fact that we're going to reuse the content in here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll out a bit. I'm going to hold the shift key down, and I'm going to move the comment off of it, and I'm going to delete it. I'll recomment in a minute, or probably towards the end of the video actually, and I'm going to select actually the stuff off this completed branch, so the loop, the remove stuff, and I'm going to right click on one of the nodes, and I'm going to do collapse to function, and this function will remove sent units. I'm going to delete this other function. You can ignore that. We're actually going to replicate that in a second. I was just testing something out earlier and I forgot to delete that. I'm going to highlight everything past the for each loop, including the reroute nodes, and I'm going to right click on one of the nodes again, and I'm going to collapse to function, and I'm going to name that, well, the function I just deleted, as set to be removed. There we go. So we have set to be removed, and we have our remove sent units. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean this up a tiny bit. I'm going to move the index pin down one. Also going to move the input pin down all the way to the bottom. So I want the pin A at the top, input pin in the middle, and input 2 at the bottom. I'm going to rename these. So the A will become array element, just so I know what's going into it. Now remember, the array element is an individual unit in this selected units array here. The input pin with the integer will become our array index, so that's where that unit in this array is. And then the last pin will be our target unit. This is the unit we're checking if it is in this array or not. Now the reason we've broken this down is we're going to reuse all of this pretty much in a little bit. We are going to get rid of this get in vehicles. And to do that, we need to set some things up. First thing we need to set up after we save and compile this is we need to go to our vehicle. So if you go to your units folder, open up your ground vehicle, go to your viewport. Also, we can close out the remove passengers bit. We'll go back to that in a minute. So in here, what we're going to do is we're going to add in a component, and we're going to add in a box collision. And just like our building, we are going to name this entry point. Right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to click perspective and go to top view. And we're going to this view so you can see why I've picked the numbers we are going to use. On the right hand panel, assuming you haven't changed your layout, find your box extent. And in your X, we're going to change this to 400. As you can see, now the box extends out in front of the car and behind the car. Next, we're going to do 200. So we're on the Y on 200, and we're extended out from each side of the vehicle. And then on the Z axis, well, let's change to right or left perspective. We're going to change this to 80. Now, this might not look like it makes sense, but once we move this box up, you'll see why. And we're going to move it up so the bottom line of the box is on the ground. So we're just going to drag it up there, and now you can see we're above the vehicle, we're in front of it, and if we go to the top view, you can see we're still on the sides. Alright, now that's set up, what we need to do, just like the building, is we need to do a on component begin overlap. Click that. It might switch you over to the event graph. If it hasn't, go over there now, and you'll see we have this new on component begin overlap entry point off the other actor. Just like we do in our building, we're going to cast to our RTS building, sorry, not RTS building, to our RTS unit master. There we go. Now, we haven't set up everything we need to set up, but we're going to go as far along this line as we can before we need to switch into another blueprint. So what we need to do is we need to we need to create a variable off of this. This will be our selected unit. Now we're going to create a new variable in our selected unit. In fact, we're actually going to recreate a variable that's already there. We're going to delete the old version of it at the end of the video, or maybe in the next video, depending on how long this takes. So we're going to go into our units folder. We're going to open our unit master this time around. And in here, what we're going to do is we are going to replicate this get target building. So what we're going to do is create a new function. It's going to be get target vehicle. I'm going to delete that because that's what we're going to make in a second. The old version of it, if you go into your, where did I put it? Oh, passenger in. We're going to delete passenger in later on. It's this one right here we're replicating. So we're going to put a new input pin there. This will be target vehicle. We are going to set this to our RTS vehicle group master. And we are just going to drag off of this. We are going to create a new variable, which will be target vehicle. And we're going to put a return node off of this. All right, save and compile, or compile and save. Go back to your ground vehicle, get your reference to your selected unit, and then call the variable we've just created, not the function, of target vehicle. So get target vehicle. We are then going to check, is this equal to the blueprint we're currently in, the vehicle we're sending the target to? So we want to get a reference to self. And off this set here, we're going to have a branch, and we're going to plug that equals into our branch there. There we go. So are we equal to, is the target vehicle equal to this particular vehicle? If so, then we're going to have off the true what we'll call a set as passenger. And if we go to our unit master again, close this out, well, there's some things we can do in here, and as we go through this, you're going to see there's some cleanup we could have done further outside of our player controller, but we're already at 40 minutes in the last video involving our building. Like this here, we're actually going to clean this up. And we're going to do this now because in our set passengers, we're going to use that. But let's get that set up right away, at least for the custom event. So we're going to set up our custom event. This will be set as passenger. And before I go any further, because I'll often forget to do this, let's go back to our ground vehicle and grab a reference to our selected unit again. And let's do set as passenger. And just plug that into there. So if it's true, we're going to activate this set as passenger function. Now, nothing's going to happen here. So we don't need to worry. We do need to worry about putting things in, but we're not at the stage where we need to worry about play testing it yet. The first thing we are going to do is we're going to do that little bit of cleanup. We're going to highlight these 3 nodes here in our arrive at building, the is selected, is hidden, and set new hidden. We are going to collapse them to a function, which will be set untargetable. There we go. Move that over there. And now in the set untargetable, we have some things we need to do. And I'm going to explain why we are doing them, simply because they're going to look a bit weird. So inside of here, what we need to do is we need to get a reference to our capsule component. Let's just say capsule collision there for a second. And we need to set some collision settings here. So we're going to set collision response to channel. All right, go ahead and just plug that into the set actor hidden. And we're going to need a second one of these as well. So we're going to I'm going to put a reroute there. We're going to duplicate the set collision by channel or to channel. Plug that into there. And then just off this reroute, I'm going to plug it into there, put another reroute in. I swear I spend more time organizing this to be pretty than I do actually explaining stuff. All right, so now that's all plugged in. The first channel we're going to set to pawn. And we're going to leave it as ignore. So what's happening here is when we have a unit that goes into a building or into a vehicle, other units will be able to walk through it. And one of the issues we have is if we have enough units around a building, they're in a building, eventually they'll block the entry point. They'll block that collision capsule or collision box, and units won't be able to enter. The other one we're going to take care of is this vehicle. We're going to set vehicle to ignore as well. And I'm going to quickly explain why using our main screen. So in here, if you send a unit into a vehicle, we're teleporting it below the map. Now, there is nothing down here. The unit keeps falling and falling and falling, further and further. If you wait long enough, the unit will get destroyed. It will be killed. It'll be pending destruction. You'll get an error message. You could put in a visible mesh down here, so a plane that doesn't render any texture, and have them teleport there instead. I do run into issues doing that. It's actually what's in the test file. Now, what's killing the units is this kill Z over here. So if you have a smaller number, it might happen much faster. With a number like this, it takes about 5 minutes before the unit falls far enough for it to be destroyed. And I do mean 5 real-life minutes, not game minutes. So we're going to get rid of that problem by actually making the units not vanish from, or not teleporting the units down here, but making them invisible and being able to drive things through them or send units through them as if they aren't there. So that's all this is doing. It's creating this, it's setting them invisible, and it's allowing things that matter to pass through them. Now, we do have an issue where we can't build buildings on them. You might want to add in one for buildings, but that's up to you. But then we'll teleport them as we normally do when we release them from the vehicle. So we have this set as passenger that we need to take care of now. And we're just going to literally copy all of this, duplicate it down here. So we're going to set our deselected icon or decal. We're going to set as untargetable. And before I forget, we're going to also make a duplicate of this set as untargetable. We're going to rename it as set to targetable. We're going to get rid of this is hidden. We're going to set both of these back as block, so things can't walk through them and vehicles can't drive through them. All right, we can close that out. We won't need it for a little bit. So the next thing we need to do is we need to take care of our send passengers. Like we have send occupants here, we are going to do send passengers. And we're going to do that in our player controller. So if we go back here, we're literally replicating this setup here. Except for it's not going to be get unit, it's going to be get passenger, which we have to update as well. So we're going to do custom event, and it'll be send passengers. There we go. And we'll have, again, 2 input nodes, just like the one above it. First one will be our target vehicle instead of our target building. And that'll be, again, of course, RTS vehicle master. And our second one will be our target unit. And that will be of RTS unit master. All right, we don't have this get passenger set up correctly for what we need to do. And when we compile in a moment, we'll get an error message. That's fine. And not this moment. When we compile the next little bit. So let's go back to our unit master. Let's get a reference to our controller. So there's our controller reference. We're going to get it. We are going to do send passengers. Plug that into there. Our target vehicle is this target vehicle here. And then we are going to do a reference to self for the target unit. Okay, so now take care of this get passengers or send passengers bit. So that's in our, sorry, I'm in the wrong blueprint. Compile this bit. We're not going to get the error that I mentioned just yet. All right, now in our ground vehicles, let's go to our get passengers. Here's where we're going to get the error. if you look at the building masters version of this, so if we go into here, this get units, it's a single unit we're doing, and we're going to do the same thing in our ground vehicle. So we're going to take all of this, except for the last two nodes, the current passengers and add unique, and we are going to delete. Ooh, yeah, sorry, I thought I deleted the I get passengers node here. All right, now the next thing we need to do is we need to change that to a simple one item unit instead of an array, and just plug it in. Plug that in, and you really can't get this line up in a nice, neat little way. So unfortunately, we have to deal with the lines being slightly askew there. We will have other things coming off of here, but we're now getting to the point we can test it. Let's go back to our player controller. You see we have a compile error. Well, the reason we have a compile error is we still have this get in vehicle. This get in vehicle still has this array set up. Well, honestly, all I gotta say to that is unpin that, or you don't even have to unpin it, just delete it. It can go away now. What we are going to do, however, is we're gonna unpin the move macro. We're gonna move it over. We do need a little bit more room to actually fit everything in. It isn't sized correctly to the other box, I realize. We are going to get our selected unit. So if we go to our unit control, we have our selected unit. We are going to get it, and we are going to do get target vehicle. We're going to plug that into there. We're going to plug that into the move to. And we are going to grab our target vehicle, which is inside our hit results. Or not. Oh, it's inside of our unit control, because we use it's a unit we move. Sorry about that. Plug your target vehicles into your target vehicle. All right. Now the last little bit, let's compile to make sure we have no other errors in here. We don't. That's a good sign. The next bit we need to do is we need to, from this vehicle, do our get passengers. And the target unit is going to be the passenger. We're going to put a reroute in here and just drag this down like we did on this top bit. In fact, we're going to highlight this top bit and Control W for duplicate down here. We're going to pin that node into there. There we go. And then just carry this over to here. All right, now we're at the stage where we can test it. So let's compile. Let's hit play. Let's put a unit and a vehicle in, or a vehicle and a unit, and send the unit to that vehicle. There we go. They get into the vehicle. Now it has a passenger. We're going to run into a little bit of an issue though. If I can get the vehicle to stop. Thank you. We can't unload the passenger. Also, notice the vehicle drove right through where the passenger was. The passenger is still on the top map. They're not teleported away. So that kill effect should now be gone. So we have to take care of releasing the units. Let's go back to our ground vehicle master. Let's go to our remove passengers. And we're just going to make a couple of small changes here. First, we're going to get rid of this. And we are going to instead have our set. Hang on, just type in targetable. Set to targetable. There we go. Spawn them back into the world that way. Now this actually should take care of that issue. I say that, but for some reason I'm just kind of lurking, just kind of suspicious it won't, but it really should. So let's test this out. Make sure it still works. We're going to spawn in a vehicle and a unit. I gotta start saying those in the right order. There we go. Alright, so we're having a bit of an issue where it's not releasing the unit. Oh, sorry. The reason why it's not releasing the unit, I knew there was something I skipped, is this has passengers. We aren't updating this. This is still false. So we need to update it when the unit comes into here. Get passengers. We are going to grab off of here. And we are, sorry, we're going to actually set, not grab off of there, we're going to set at the end of this, has passengers, there he is. Sorry, I have 2 minutes to see that, has passengers. So if this gets activated, then we have passengers in the vehicle. This will now work. We spawn a unit and a vehicle in. We send the unit to the vehicle. We select the vehicle. We release a unit. There it goes. All nice and lovely. Okay. So the unit disappeared about there. Let's see if I can get him to drive through the unit. There we go. He drove through where about the unit was. Let's drive this way. So we're definitely going. He's not going through the unit that time. Let's go that way. That'll put us through where the unit was. And he just went through where the unit was. So we know that that is working. The unit's invisible. Let's unload the passenger. I'm going to show you a little bit of a bug. I'm going to drive the car now into the unit. Boom. Now, the unit is still standing right where that car went through him at. He's also now a passenger. So, we need to take care of one other thing. We need to clear the passenger. Unlike the building where we can't move a building to a unit. We can only move a unit to a building. We aren't going to clear the target vehicle when we move the unit, because we might move the vehicle next, and thus it would still run into the same issue. The easiest way to clear the target unit then is instead, when we get our passengers, is to clear it at that point. So I'm going to drag this down a tiny bit, put another reroute into here, and just drag off of here. We're going to do set target vehicle, and we're going to use the variable this time. So set target vehicle, and we aren't going to plug anything. Let me just move this over. We aren't going to, actually this should be at the end, sorry. We aren't going to set anything into our target vehicle. This is now an empty reference. It's now, nothing's in there. So when we move the vehicle into where the unit was, nothing will happen. So let's just make sure that works. We're going to spawn in a vehicle. We'll spawn in a unit in front of it, just make this slightly easier. Send the unit into the vehicle. Drive the unit, or the vehicle through where the unit was. It went through. Lovely. Oop, sorry, not what I meant to do. And then we'll unload our passenger. We'll drive the vehicle towards the unit, and we should just hit the unit instead. Oh, no, we're still running into an issue. It's still vanishing. All right. We'll also clear this at one other point just to be on the safe side. I'm not sure why that didn't clear, though. That should have honestly cleared it. On the remove passenger, what we'll also do is that local unit. Well, when we exit the vehicle, instead of grabbing another local unit, we'll just put a reroute in here. We will target vehicle. We're going to use the function this time, just because we can. And there's nothing in that target vehicle reference. Actually, we should have used the function on the other one, technically, to be more accurate to how C++ works. We're just going to plug that in, and let's test this out again. Spawn in a vehicle, spawn in a unit, move the unit there, select the vehicle, unload the passenger, and drive the vehicle through the unit. There we go. It's now working. He's now hitting the unit, and he can't drive through it. So our collision boxes are working again, and somehow we have the strongest human in the world. All right. Yeah, they can push the vehicles. Love the physics. So that takes care of getting our unit into the vehicle. Now, we have taken about 23 minutes to do this. The next little bit we need to do is we need to clean up some of this stuff. So we are just going to comment out some of this. We are going to comment this out as update units, or update building unit list. And this will be update vehicle passenger list. I'm leaving these down here because they relate to the movement command still. Let's go back to our ground vehicle. Let's find any references that we can get rid of that we no longer use. So we have a lot of things out here. There's target. I know we still use it. That's for our movement commands. So we should just, we're going to put this into movement as a category. Our initial distance is also a movement. Our starting time is part of our movement. Our max passengers is vehicle variables. I'm actually going to name, actually it should be variables, not settings. I don't believe we use passenger temps anymore, so we can delete that. There we go. Now we can check if we have current passengers. We definitely still use that because we use it to actually have the array of passengers. So we'll put that in passenger details. Our vehicle type is a vehicle variable. And our selected unit is a passenger detail. Okay. So, if you want, you can comment the stuff out in here. I'm not going to. Let's make sure everything else is set up. We have get passengers. And we're going to need to take care of the HUD on that as well. We have our remove passengers with set up. Our move to location. So everything else is pretty much set up in there. Our unit master, let's clean this up quickly. So let's find references to that. There are none anymore, so we can delete it. Let's compile. Let's also just run the game to make sure there are no errors, and there are none. So if you delete anything that had references outside the blueprint, you can click this to see where they're from. But you can also just run the game to see if it says, hey, you're trying to call a variable that doesn't exist anymore. So our target building will be movement decals along with our details, not decals, along with our target vehicle. So movement details. This will be vehicle movement or vehicle related. No, vehicle movement's better. Vehicle movement. This will be building related or building related. Our target vehicle will be part of that. I can't drag in there. That's sad. So that'll be our vehicle movement again. Our target set untargetable and set to targetable will be unit selection. So we'll move both of those to unit selection. There we go. And the final one into unit selection. Compile and save. Now, I think we can knock out the next little thing I want to do, which is something I said I was going to do in the third video. We're going to do that now instead. There we go. We are going to go into our HUD, and we're going to make one small change inside of our HUD. And that change is relatively minor, but very, very important. We're going to find our event input release, which is right here. We're going to need a little bit of room because we're also going to comment some of this out today. Just going to move this down here. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab our set selected units here. And inside, actually no, we're not. Sorry, I just lied to you. In our set selected units, or our set units, sorry, not our set selected units, we are going to add something into here. What we're going to do is we're going to, before this sequence, we're going to extend out. And we're going to add in one more branch. And do branch. This is going to come off the false end of the branch. So we want something that's not going to be true in order to select units. Oops. Select all those and move it over. What we want not to be true is we want our unit not to already be hidden. So we want selected unit. We're going to get it. And we're going to do is hidden. We want to get is hidden. If it is hidden, then we can't select it. So why this is important, actually let me unpin this for a moment and let me put this on true. Actually, hang on, no. Let's put this back to false. Let's unpin this. You don't need to do this. I'm just showing you why we're doing this. I'm going to set this part to bypass the branch for a moment. I'm going to unpin that. I'm going to hit compile. I'm going to go back to the unit master. And again, you don't need to do this. I'm just showing you why we're doing this. I'm going to just turn that off for a second. We're going to compile. We're going to start a game. We'll put a factory in. We'll spawn a couple of, not cars in, sorry. We'll spawn a couple of units in, and let's send them into the building. All right, they're in the building. You saw their deselection icons go. They're clearly there. If I hit release, actually I'm not gonna hit release yet. Actually, no, I will to show you that they are. If I hit release, I can select them, send them back out. All right, we have a little bit of an issue where they've merged into each other, but we can take care of that in a second. They're back inside the building. I can now still select them, however, and even send them to the vehicle. We run into an issue where they're both in the vehicle. Oh, they've left the... There we go. Now they're back in the building, but they're not, and they're also back in the vehicle. So we have the vehicle's still moving, so I can't release them. We have an issue where we can select units, as I said, when they're hidden. So by adding in that branch, what we're doing is we are removing the ability to select units. So I'm trying to see if I can get them to unmerge. There we go. We are removing the ability for units to be selected if they are already hidden. There we go. And we're just going to plug that back into the false there. Compile and save. So now when I test this, and I put a building in, and I spawn 2 units in, and I send them to the building, we can see they're still there. I can't select them, however. I can't right-click them. I can't open their profile by doing this. I can do that and release one of the units and send it out. All right. So the next bit is I just have to undo what I did a second ago. So in my unit master, I'm just going to plug that back in. And that takes care of the marquee selection. In the next video, what we'll do is we will finish out our send to vehicle so we have a better UI for our vehicle, and we'll do a little bit of the further cleaning up of some of our blueprints, like our building master and things like that. That said, if you've liked this series or this video, go ahead and hit that like button down below. It helps me out a lot. It gets this tutorial out there further to people who might not have seen it before and know its existence. We'll even comment this out in the next video as well. If there's anything you want to see in the series, anything you want me to include, please let me know down in the comments below. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.